What's up? TheAireaidLord's here, and welcome to making sure my mic works. Welcome to my review video for season 7 of Game of Thrones. I did this for The Walking Dead, and now I'm doing it for Game of Thrones. As I said, sorry about the late upload time on that reaction video. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. But sorry about my late reaction video. First upload was copyright problems, and so I had to manipulate the video. Not as big as turnout as I had hoped. The earlier ones had better turnout. I'm not sure if that's simply because my siblings were in it, or if that was just because it was earlier in the season and people got burnt out. I'm not sure. Don't know. But again, most of my reaction videos for my channel are for Walking Dead. So, Game of Thrones was just an add-on. I had only done Walking Dead reactions for the longest time, but Game of Thrones, I love the show in many ways. I still like The Walking Dead more, but, Game of Thrones does, some things better than The Walking Dead, I'll admit. And I wanted to give it some fair justice in terms of reaction. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had much content on the channel anyway. It's kind of been slow moving in terms of just news and announcements. There's one Walking Dead announcement that I might make a vlog on that just came out recently, but I'll save that. So for now, obviously, let's talk about season 7, and only 7 episodes, which we knew. And I can say that this season, whereas, and again, I'll be comparing to The Walking Dead just because it's another drama television show, but The Walking Dead, people said, kind of had a slower season. There was a lot of complaints about that. Oh, the show, it's slow. After the big premiere, which, again, I won't spoil, but after the big premiere, people thought it was really slow moving getting towards any events. There was a lot of complaints of bottle episodes where they only showcased one character, and they felt that the events dragged on, and nothing really happened. Even though a lot technically did happen in Season 7, some people didn't feel that way. And I made a vlog about that. But Game of Thrones is on the opposite end of the spectrum, where people thought that maybe a few bottle episodes might have been, worth it. Maybe if you had a bottle episode about just Daenerys' politics, or if we got to see some of the characters that didn't make it, because there were two characters in particular that didn't make it into season 7 who I thought would make it into season 7, and one of them I guess was supposed to, but it was taken out as like a deleted scene, which we might see in the Blu-ray or DVD release or whatever comes out for Game of Thrones. But the two are, so Ghost, Jon's direwolf, was not in season 7 at all. The last time we saw his direwolf was when he was defending Jon when Jon was killed and then was revived by the Red Woman. It's actually Ghost's nonverbal cues when he kind of gets up and then Jon wakes up. And that's our first indication that Jon is alive, because Ghost realizes that Jon's alive and then gets up. So... And then also he's defending his body where Alistair Thorne and the other mutineers are trying to break down the door with Sir Davos and trying to get him. So Ghost was defending. So Ghost was important for that sequence. And I know in the grand scheme of the other events of Season 6 that he might not have had a big role because, Jon's trying to ask support from the other houses. They're trying to amass soldiers for the Boltons. There's Sansa with the Veil and Littlefinger. So there were a lot of different events going on where Ghost's presence wasn't necessarily needed. However, the director for the Battle of the Bastards said that they were going to put Ghost in the Battle of the Bastards and have him kill a few Boltons or whatever, and he would have survived. But I guess the CGI and just the cost of the episode was so great that they couldn't do it. So Ghost actually ended up getting cut. And they actually said that they kind of had to choose. They had to choose between One, the Giant, or Ghost. Because, there's a lot of things CGI related you have to do for One. Sorry, something's really bothering my fucking eye. But, there's a lot of CGI things you have to do for the giant to become realistic. You know, there's a scene where he bursts down a door. Sorry, busts down a door. He picks up a guy and rips him in half. He flips a horse with his fucking hand, which I thought was the funniest. I was like, geez, yeah, how is any cavalry going to charge a giant? The giant can just like pick them up like fucking Legos and toss them. So, yeah, and that's some of those are my favorite parts, some of my favorite parts. And I think the giant added a lot to the Battle of the Bastards, and it was really cool because it's almost like the dragon for Daenerys. The dragon when she fights the Lannisters this season. And the creators said that, like, what if someone had, like, an AC-130 or an F-120 in a medieval battle? So, all of a sudden, you have something that's completely overpowered, this super weapon of mass destruction that completely tips the scales in someone's favor. And the giant didn't necessarily do that, although a lot of people argued that it should have. They said, oh, he should have had armor, he should have had, like, a tree, he should have been throwing shit, which I agree. Maybe if 1-1 had like a tree or some heavy object, he could have thrown it at the Boltons when they like encircled them. He could have like crushed them with it. Might not have been a bad idea because he wasn't really using any weapons. He was just kind of using his brute force and height and power to kind of flip people, pick people up, throw them. That was really all he was doing, which is still effective. But anyway, to get back to my original point, Ghost was not in the season. He was supposed to be in that Battle of the Bastards, but they cut him due to cost restraints. And then apparently he was supposed to be in episode 2 of season 7 of, this current season before Jon leaves to see Daenerys. And he wasn't in there either. Apparently Ghost is at Winterfell somewhere. Maybe he's being held where Ramsay's dogs used to be. And maybe that's just like Ghost's playpen or something. But I don't know. It's kind of stupid because I would have thought there would have been some interaction. Maybe Arya interacts with Ghost because she just saw her direwolf, Nymeria. Nymeria was in this season. That was nice fan service. But Nymeria just moves on. And I know it's a metaphor for how Arya is not the typical girl and how that there's that quote, "That's not you," that she says to Ned Stark. And there's parallels between obviously Arya and her direwolf, which is why they were such a great pair. But it would have been nice to see Ghost utilized because we didn't get to see Nymeria. And there's so many Starks, Bran Stark, Arya Stark, Sansa. It would have been nice for one of them to have interacted with Ghost and acknowledged its presence, or even Jon before he left. And it's just kind of stupid that there wasn't any interaction with Ghost at all. And I think it's necessary, even if you don't want to give a lot of characters like a character time and devotion, because you have other characters that are more important, you have other plot events that you want to get to. I think adding some screen time is important. Some screen time is important. And we didn't get that for Ghost. The other character we didn't get that for, I mentioned 2. The other one we didn't get that for was Edmure Tully, the last Tully alive. And we know that he's alive because in the season 6 finale, Walder Frey says that Edmure is back in he's back in a cell. Can't go killing my son by law. It wouldn't be right. So we know that Edmure is alive, and that he's being held probably at the Twins in a cell, just like he was being held imprisoned in episode 6 of season 6, where Walder Frey is talking about how the Blackfish took back Riverrun, and then Edmure comes out in chains. So we know that he was being held as a prisoner there. So the first scene of season 7, we see Arya kills and poisons all of the Freys. So wouldn't it make logical sense that Edmure is freed and takes control of the Twins, retakes Riverrun, something strategic? Why? He's the last Tully alive. Now that the Blackfish is dead, Catelyn Stark, Lysa Arryn, all of the Tullys are dead. Edmure is still alive, presumably, and is still the heir to the Riverlands and now the Twins, because he married, don't forget at the Red Wedding, he married one of Walder Frey's daughters, and they had a son. So, because of that union, that kid technically inherits the Twins and Riverrun now that all of the fucking Freys are dead. The succession for the Freys now goes through the women, which I don't know, because obviously Walder Frey had a lot of daughters. We saw one of them killed, which was the one Roose Bolton married, and then we saw one or two killed at the Red Wedding. But it seems like Arya left a lot of them alive. She didn't kill any of the women. It seems like she just killed the men Freys. So I was expecting at least a brief scene where Arya frees her uncle. Edmure Tully is Arya's uncle, and I'm surprised that in all of her snooping around and deceptive sneaking in the twins, that we wouldn't have seen her come across Edmure in prison. Maybe I would have liked a brief scene where, here's how I think it could have been shot. After Arya poisons all the Freys, there's a scene where she walks down to the prison cell. Edmure freaks out because he thinks someone's going to torture him or something. Instead, Arya comes over with the keys, unlocks the jail cell. Edmure doesn't rarely recognize her because he's never really seen Arya Stark. And then Arya Stark kind of turns and has a badass line like, "Oh, you're lord of this castle now." And then Edmure follows Arya up to that room where she killed everybody. And then you have that outro shot where you have all of the Freys massacred. And you not only have Arya's facial expression of what she did, but then you also have Edmure like, holy shit, all the Freys are dead. Like, just completely like in shock that all of his enemies are seemingly dead. So it would have been cool because then you could have had, I don't know, again, if there was really time in the season to dedicate towards him with any scenes, but it at least would have been cool to remember that those characters still exist. Gendry was in this season. We went 4 seasons with no Gendry, and even Davos made the joke, "I thought you'd still be rowing," which is a nice throw. A lot of people have made that meme that, while all this shit's going down in the world of Westeros, fucking Gendry is still rowing, and he ended up to be at a blacksmith in King's Landing, which apparently he was at that blacksmith when the High Sparrow took control and when all these crazy things, when the Sept of Baelor blew up. So I guess Gendry's just been, removed from every conflict that's been going on in King's Landing around him. So hopefully, assuming he wasn't near the Sept of Baelor explosion. So, Gendry. I mean, again, yeah. So that's my argument. Like, why was Edmure and Ghost, the direwolf, not in this season? I don't understand why they weren't in this season at all. When they were in season 6 and they had roles that supplemented our other main characters, but now they're just not in it. We had that fantastic scene between Jaime and Edmure in season 6 where Jaime's trying to break Edmure, saying that he doesn't matter to him, that, and they even name dropped. They said Edmure has a son that he's never really met. He's been imprisoned, and you feel bad for him. And then he willingly goes, and seeing it's the only option, he goes and lets the Lannisters take River Run back when the Freys were all still alive. And there's some noble, sacrifice to that. We had the Blackfish and Edmure in season 6. The Blackfish was killed off. Some people disagreed with how he died, but Edmure's still out there, and they told us that. If they wanted us to forget about Edmure, they wouldn't have had Walder Frey say that line in season 6, where Edmure's back in a cell, can't go killing my son by law now. It wouldn't be right. I don't know why that line would have been added in the script if we wanted to forget about him. Now, I have a theory about where Edmure can show up if they're saving his character. Now that Jaime Lannister, and again, if you haven't noticed by now, since I'm reviewing season 7, lots of spoilers, but because Jaime Lannister is now gone rogue, I'm assuming he doesn't really have control of the Lannister armies. I don't know if Cersei's going to put out some decree saying, yeah, don't trust Jaime, he's a traitor, he's not listening to me. I don't know, that's weird, because Cersei obviously hesitated and didn't kill Jaime because she truly is the last person that she's got other than her unborn child. So, will she put a bounty on him? I don't know what's going to happen with that. Obviously, she has more of a reason to get to hook up with Euron Greyjoy now, which would be weird. I mean, Euron's been fucking sucking her tits the whole season, so at this point, she's probably going to be like, well, I got nobody, so why the fuck not? Which would be really weird, but so my theory is that Jaime will run into Edmure, that while Jaime is heading north by himself, presumably, either Jaime will meet up with other Lannister forces that he can say, hey, like, I'm still the commander of the Lannister forces, not sure where your loyalty lies, but we need to head the fuck north so we can support Daenerys, Jon Snow, the North, and fight the White Walkers. I'm thinking since the Twins and River Run is kind of right in the middle between King's Landing and the North, I feel like while Jaime is crossing to get up north, he'll run into Edmure. And obviously, Jaime and Edmure have had some character interactions together, as I just said in season 6. So that might be interesting. Maybe Edmure had. We see like a flash forward. Now Edmure has control of the Twins. He has the Tully army. So now he can say to Jaime, "Oh, you've gone rogue. Maybe there's some distrust. They don't trust each other. But now they can join forces and say, all right, let's take this army." Jaime explains, "Hey, there's an army of dead men. Your relatives are all in the north. Let's team up and take this army and travel north and go fight the fucking White Walkers." And I think that would be pretty cool. That would be a way to bring Edmure back into the fold and utilize his character in some way so that now he has his army and now they're moving north. And now Jaime has some way of allying himself with people that don't necessarily trust him, mainly Jon Snow, Daenerys, Sansa Stark, Brienne. He can come with the river, the Edmure and the Tully army and say, "Hey, I brought some allies that we're all on the same side. Here, this is my contribution, even though the Lannisters kicked me the fuck out." Because you see Jaime riding in that last scene, he doesn't have his armor on anymore. That golden Lannister armor, like with the lion shoulder pad and that really exquisite gold, he doesn't have that on anymore. That armor plating is taken off, and when he's riding on his horse, he has just regular peasant clothing. Even there's that scene where he puts a glove. He looks at his gold hand, his Lannister gold hand that was made for him, and he puts a black glove over it, almost to disguise and metaphorically say, "I'm not really part of the Lannisters and part of the crown anymore. Like I'm Rogue One. I'm fucking a lone wolf, and I'm trying to ally myself." And this is cool because I like this character arc for Jaime. All season we've been seeing him wrestle with Cersei. You had Olenna Tyrell telling him before she died, like, "Cersei's gonna be the fucking end of you. Like, what are you doing, you stupid? She's manipulative. She's deceiving you. She's using you. She's a witch. She's crazy. She's batshit fucking crazy, and you just can't see it. You're an honorable man, as people like Bran and others have noted, but you need to cut the cord." And I'm so glad that he cut the cord. And I like that he stayed honor bound. Even when Cersei was saying, "Oh, Euron's gonna ferry the Golden Company over here. We're just gonna let our enemies in the north kill each other, and then we're gonna pick up the pieces." This is kind of what Littlefinger said to Cersei about back when Stannis and Roose Bolton were fighting for Winterfell. He said, "Let Stannis and Roose Bolton battle, and then seize Winterfell from whoever wins." Now, that plan never came to fruition because of all the craziness that was going on with the Sparrows down in King's Landing, and then Littlefinger's own issues and allegiances that he had. But still, there was this idea that floated in Cersei's mind where she's like, "Okay, I can let my enemies kill each other, and then I can pick up the pieces," because she's at a disadvantage. She knows that she can't beat the dragons. They got their ass kicked in that Spoils of War episode, which, by the way, that's got to be my favorite episode of the season. Like, I like the White Walker battle, because we essentially had two major battles this season. We had Jaime's army versus Daenerys' Dothraki horde and dragons, and then we had the White Walker battle with the dragons, the big battle on the ice with all of our main cast of characters. So those were our two big battles. We had some smaller battles, which some people wanted embellished, and again, this is where, if there was more time in the season, they could have been expanded, such as the Casterly Rock battle, because that was pretty big. We saw two castles that we've never seen before. We saw Casterly Rock and Highgarden. And some people were disappointed by the presentation of these castles. I thought Casterly Rock was decent. I liked that fine white mosaic brick that they used. I thought the castle would be bigger. I've seen artist representations of how it might look in the books, and it does look a bit more lavish, bit larger. Same thing with Highgarden. Highgarden looks like it's fucking like Rapunzel's fucking like you know, a resort getaway, and it looks like this dreamy, amazing fucking place. But Highgarden was just this high standing castle in the middle of a big field with some brush and shrubbery surrounding it. So I can understand. And again, Highgarden's purpose, there was no battle there. The battle skipped, and we see Jaime's army marching, and then it's just assumed that they get in, kill the Tyrells, and then Jaime goes up and confronts Olenna. So some people didn't like that. I guess it's to be assumed that since Randall Tarley was one of the bannermen of the Reach and the Tyrells, enough bannermen turned against the Tyrells that they wouldn't have support. Maybe there was some mutiny, and this would have again, these are some scenes that might have explained some of this. Maybe there was some mutiny inside Highgarden from some of the bannermen that now supported Jaime, the Tarleys, and the Crown. And they opened the gates because, again, like, Highgarden's a castle. I don't know if I necessarily saw Jaime with any siege weapons. Yeah, he brought his whole army, but were there any siege weapons that they used to bust down the gates of Highgarden? Like, I don't know. Maybe those were all the wagons. All the wagons you saw that Drogon eventually blew up and incinerated. Maybe they brought some of those siege weapons to deal with Highgarden, but we just didn't see it. And again, with 7 episodes, again, there were a lot of scenes that felt like they could have used more time. And if the season had 10 episodes, that would have accomplished that. And this also brings up the point of, why were there not 10 episodes? We've gone 6 seasons with 10 episodes, 60 episodes, and now we only have 7 episodes. And now there's only 6 episodes. And in season 8, the final season, there's only 6 episodes. Now, I've heard rumors that each one is around like 2 hours-ish long, that they're going to be longer, so maybe double the length, which would be 10 episodes again. So, again, it confuses me. I don't understand why they don't just go to the number of episodes for the formula that they've had before. This is arguably the biggest show on television. So, why are they not, like, is it just like budget restraints? Is HBO really bleeding them dry in terms of their budget? I don't know if that's true, because look at the budget for the Spoils of War, look at all the battles. Look at all of the scenes this season that needed lots and lots and lots of CGI and staging and actors and extras and effects and horses and training and all this stuff. There was still a lot of money spent, and they were decent episodes. That's the thing. They were good episodes. But again, I don't know why there was only 7 of them, man. Like, some of these scenes and some of these missing things could have had more time. Like I said, Edmure, Ghost, the battles of Casterly Rock and Highgarden. Now, Casterly Rock battle, I think, was good, because that battle was narrated by Tyrion, because he gave the Unsullied the tip-off about that hidden sewer that he made, which is cool, which is really cool, which makes sense. Tywin would have given Tyrion a really shitty job, and, there would have been... I knew it. Like, since Tyrion grew up at Casterly Rock, I knew that he had some sort of insider information, which was cool, which was really cool to see. And the Unsullied used that, and that was a logical way in which the Unsullied would have taken Casterly Rock, which is really cool. The battle was kind of short. Again, maybe a few more shots of the Unsullied fighting the fucking Lannisters, because we got to see the Dothraki fight far more than the Unsullied. So yeah, and then other characters that didn't have much screen time. The Sand Snakes, Alaria Sand. I don't know if the creators knew that people hated them and then just gave them a quick death in episode 2 when Euron attacks the fleet. I don't know, man. There was a lot of wasted potential with the Sand Snakes. I never really agreed with Doran Martell and Trystane being killed. I thought those characters both had a lot of potential. I would have liked to have seen Trystane's role when the High Sparrow was fucking everything up. I don't know, man. Like, I guess the Sand Snakes are and the Dorne is handled far differently in the books. So a lot of people weren't happy with how they kind of got... That was it. Like, and according to the actress that plays Alaria Sand, apparently she didn't film anything else, and that's the end of her character. So the Dornish, get completely fucking wiped out. Oberyn's dynasty, the Martells, all of the vengeance he wanted on the mountain. Fucking ironic. Oberyn wanted vengeance for his murdered family, and then his whole family ends up getting murdered in the end anyway. We had the destruction of so many major houses this season. The Tyrells, completely gone. The Tarleys, basically gone. I mean, I know Samwell is the last Tarley alive, but I don't think he's really carrying on the Tarley legacy. He's kind of, he wants to be a maester, he wants to do his own stuff, so he's not really going to carry on the legacy, which is what his father assumed anyway. He has the Valyrian steel sword Heartsbane, which will probably come in handy against the White Walkers. But, yeah, the Tarleys basically wiped out. I'm trying to think of who else. So this in the Martells, Tyrells, and the Tarleys, basically. And then the Lannisters just about. I mean, the Lannisters, now that Jaime's gone, Cersei has this baby, which I guarantee she'll be killed off before that child is born. So we can assume that the Lannisters are going to be meeting their end soon enough. Ironically, the Starks fucking came out right on top. I don't know. I think Bran being the three-eyed raven and a cripple, I'm not sure if he can necessarily conceive children, but still, you got Sansa, Arya. I'd love to see Arya and Gendry be back together. Arya and Gendry and Arya and the Hound. I'd love to see those interactions, because that was another thing we got this season, which I did like. A lot of character interactions. Lots of characters meeting each other for the first time. Obviously, Jon Snow and Daenerys was the big one. There was a whole romance built up over that. I'm going to have a separate vlog where I talk about Jon and Daenerys' romance, because a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, and I want to give my 2 cents on it, but I don't want to spend a lot of time in this vlog, because this vlog's already going pretty long. But, so Jon Snow and Daenerys, that was a big one. Tyrion and, meeting his siblings again after so much bad blood. Quite literally. And then that meeting in the Dragon Pit, which was really cool. I saw the behind the scenes where they were talking that scene up, where the creators said that was so much fun to film because it was all these actors crammed into a hotel, chatting and talking to each other. You had Brienne and the Hound meeting after so long, Podrick, Tyrion, and Bronn kind of catching up after lost time. Sir Davos and Gendry with all the characters. Most of the characters. You had the Hound and Tormund, which was some great fucking banter dialogue in episode 6. So you just had so many interactions that we've never seen before. And you had some of these in season 6, right? You had Jon Snow and Sansa meeting each other after so long. So you had some of these interactions, at one point. And every season we go, we're going to get more and more and more. And now it's to be assumed that Jon Snow and Daenerys, now that they're kind of a couple, now they'll meet Sansa and Arya, and all of them, they're going to be like, hey, meet Daenerys, meet Jon, here's Arya, here's, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, Littlefinger's dead. So there's a lot of interactions. There's a lot of, and that's down. But the thing is, the White Walkers are the conflict. That's the problem you get to, because now that they've breached the wall, it's like, they're on our doorstep. They got a fucking ice dragon. We kind of need to not stop with the cutesy stuff. We don't really have time. We need to prepare. We're about to all be fucked. I don't really know what castle is in the first line. What's the first castle that's in the way of the wall? I'm not sure which one it is. Maybe Lost Hearth, or one of the the Karstark or the Umber castles. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which strategic castle is going to be the first place that gets hit. I might have to look at the Westeros map, but it'll be interesting. I mean, again, the Night King has giants and a fucking dragon. So with his dragon, he can just do he can do what Daenerys does. He can use that blue fire and just fucking burn Winterfell. He could just incinerate a whole bunch of different castles and towns, burn some of the inhabitants and then let his White Walkers come in and finish them off. Like, dude, they're so fucked. You really need Daenerys' other 2 dragons. You're going to need to take out that dragon. You need to take out the undead Viserion and, Rhaegal and Drogon. I'm assuming I'm assuming now that we know Jon Snow's true parents are Rhaegar and Lyanna, I'd say that Jon's gonna ride the one that's named after his dad. It just makes sense. You know, Daenerys will ride Drogon as she's always done, and now Jon will probably ride Rhaegal. Assuming that Ghost is never just gonna be in the fucking show anymore. So that's gonna be Jon's pet. You know, and I assume that's smart. You know, when you have someone riding the dragon, that's probably better, so that you can kind of steer them like a fucking like plane. And that might have saved Viserion's life if Daenerys had seen the ice spear coming. Maybe she could have, you know, redirected, you know, where he was to avoid it. You know, do some juking and jiving. And that's what happened when the Night King tried to throw the spear at Drogon when they're leaving. She kind of dodged it, and it missed just barely. So having a rider on the dragon can really help it. Now, Jon really doesn't have experience riding dragons. I don't think he's never been on a dragon, because Daenerys left him behind in episode 6. So he's never been on a dragon before. He interacted with Drogon, but he's never actually like flown on a dragon. So it'll be interesting. But I do think he'll ride on Rhaegal, the other dragon that she has, and they'll probably those will be their main weapons. But again, they're not as effective now that the Night King has one, and I could see air battles. I could see fucking crazy CGI air battles. Night King versus Jon Snow and Daenerys, the power couple on their dragons, just fucking clashing in the skies. It's gonna be fucking ridiculous. But how do you fight the army of the undead? Did Jon salvage enough dragon glass in this season? Can you make like a phalanx? Can you make like a shield wall? But what about the giants? Then the undead giants can come and just smash that through. And the living, they don't have any living giants. So how are you going to match that? What's your secret weapon? Like, how are you going to defend? The only thing they have to really tip the balance is the dragon fire. But again, now the Night King has that. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to find a way to see how they can fucking win, because 100,000 undead, as Daenerys said. Do all of the northern houses and all of the houses of Westeros even have that many soldiers? Like, again, this is where Cersei might have been useful. If the Golden Company, with their giant elephants, as she mentioned, maybe the Golden Company can assist. If the Golden Company comes north with, giant war elephants and strong mercenaries, 20,000 soldiers, yeah, they could definitely maybe tip the scales and help out the side of the living. But it seems like Cersei only wants these soldiers for her benefit. So it doesn't seem like she's going to ferry them north in any way. So I really don't know how they're going to tip the scales, because right now the northern houses, the Dothraki and the Unsullied, you have a lot. That's a good group of soldiers, and that's probably a lot of men. Maybe we're talking maybe in the 40,000s perhaps, but that's only half of the Night King's army. That doesn't include giants, and you have the dragons, which is going to be, again, it might be, this battle will be a stalemate. And even if Jaime can get the Tully army and some Lannisters, you're still, the dead still really outnumber. And I think that the one way, as we saw this season, to end this video off, the one way they can win is something we were hinted at. When Jon killed the White Walker, almost all of the dead that were with it just vaporized and didn't exist anymore. So I bet you their main strategy is what Beric Dondarrion said about kill the Night King, and all the dead that follow him will die. Same thing with the dragon. If you kill the Night King, then the dragon he's riding on will just die, because he revived it. So that should be your main target. So I feel if Jon gets on Rhaegal, takes out his Long Claw, his Valyrian steel sword, and tries to clash with the Night King and try to kill him, that would be their best shot at winning. That would really be their best shot. And if you see White Walker lieutenants who have lots of undead, it would be wise to go for them first. Like even Jorah Mormont says when they're trapped in the island, we can go for the walkers, maybe we'll stand a chance. That's, I think, the motto of the whole battle. Kill the White Walkers and we might have a fucking chance. Because otherwise, it's pointless to keep killing them. It's almost like in a video game when an enemy keeps infinitely respawning enemies, and the only way to stop them from infinitely respawning the enemies is to kill them. Otherwise, they're just going to keep coming. So to kill them, and then all of the enemies stop coming. So that's your best shot. That's the only way you can really win. And they have Dragon Glass. They have fire with the dragons. So I think the White Walkers might be immune to that, as we've seen with the Night King. But that's the only way I see them winning this battle, man. I don't see the White Walkers winning. That would be, like what kind of fucking ending would that be? Everyone dies and the White Walkers win? No. You'll have casualties. I really hope Daenerys and Jon don't die. They're my two favorite characters, the main characters of the whole fucking show. Especially now with Jon being the heir to the throne, Daenerys still trying to get the throne, them being in love. There's been a lot of hints at them possibly having a child together. I don't see how Daenerys would die if she's bearing Jon's child. So then maybe Jon dies? I don't know. Like, maybe he'd have a heroic last stand, although Jon's already died and been brought back to life. Melisandre's not in the picture, but perhaps she could come back. I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. I don't want Daenerys or Jon to die, because I think that would sour the end of the show. You could have some of the other supplemental characters die, but I really think it would sour the show if you killed off some of your big mains just to say that you were killing them off. Because at least when other big main characters died, there was a purpose behind it. Like Robb Stark and Catelyn Stark, the Red Wedding, there was reason behind that. Robb Stark broke his oath. He was in a really tense war with the Lannisters, and Walder Frey chose to side with the Lannisters because Robb betrayed him. So it made sense as to why the Red Wedding happened. But I just hope there's a logical reason why some of these main characters will be killed off in the final season. I don't want it to be, we need some red shirts, we need some people to die just because there's a big battle and the Night King's here. Like, again, there are some characters that might die as a result of the battle, and I can see that happening. I could see Euron Greyjoy dying by Theon. That would be some nice justice. I can see the Hound killing the Mountain, fucking Clegane Bowl, as everyone's been waiting for. Beric Dondarrion, I think he's on his last life. I think he'll go out in a blaze of glory, no pun intended, with his flaming sword and die. Tormund is like the last leader of the wildlings, so I really hope he doesn't die. All of the Night's Watch, they're fucking dead. Now that the wall, he's going to use that dragon to... They only destroyed Eastwatch, I just want to say. Eastwatch by the Sea was the only castle that was destroyed as a result of that breach. So I don't know if the whole wall has fallen, because you don't see the entire wall falling. You only see that one section near the water. So did the Shadow Tower and Castle Black fall? Because you still have Jon Snow's friend, Ed, Dolorous Ed, who's still the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. So is he going to be killed as well? I assume the White Walkers will probably surround Castle Black and just murder them. He didn't really have a role to play anyway. He only greeted Bran Stark when Bran was coming in through the wall. So those are a couple characters. I don't know in terms... What the fuck? Stupid computer. I don't know in terms of the Starks. What Starks might die? It would make the most sense for Sansa not to die. I can really see her being... the fuck's going on with my computer? I could see her being Lady of Winterfell, and in the end controlling the North. Whether Jon or Daenerys has the throne in the South, I imagine she'll have Winterfell. Arya, she's so fucking strong, man. I don't know how she would die. I don't know. I would like her to get together with Gendry in the end. That's just my preference, if we could have lovers pairs. Tyrion Lannister, I think that's George R.R. Martin's favorite, so I don't think he'll die. If anything, Tyrion will be the one to carry on the Lannister legacy. Either Jaime will probably sacrifice himself in some way, either that or he'll get together with Brienne. Sorry, Tormund, but I logically see Jaime killing Cersei in the end and either dying against the White Walkers or in some other way, and then Tyrion's the one that carries on the Lannister legacy. Not sure who he'll pair up with. He hasn't had a romantic interest since he killed that whore Shay in season 4, so we really haven't seen him with any romance. He's just been an advisor to Daenerys ever since his exile from Westeros. Um, so yeah, Samwell. I imagine he'll be a maester, like he'll grow old and be a maester, just like Maester Aemon. So again, I don't see him dying. That's another character that George R.R. Martin actually based off of himself. So I don't really see Samwell Tarly dying. I'm trying to think of who else. Again, there's a bunch of other characters I'm missing. I assume Ghost will probably die, which is why I don't know why we're getting no screen time with him. Maybe Edmure might. But again, these are some of the last members of their houses. So again, it would have to be logical for them to die. Because we've already seen many houses completely wiped off the face of the fucking planet. The Tyrells just gone. They were the second wealthiest house, and now they're just completely gone. And Highgarden is occupied by nobody. So yeah, man. I mean, again, decent season. I know I'm throwing a lot of predictions and thoughts and feelings out in this vlog, but I think the season was really action-packed and great. It was fast-paced. We're not used to fast-paced, and even in season 6, we saw a little bit of that, where it was getting a little bit fast-paced. But even so, it still wasn't. You still had a lot of individual segments with the Sparrows, with the Boltons, with Jon Snow coming back to life. You had Arya with her training over in Braavos. You had Daenerys getting the Dothraki and coming back and kind of being, the big conqueror in the end. So, of Meereen. So, look how much they were able to squeeze into season 6. They squeezed a lot into season 6 and wrapped up a lot of storylines in that period of time. And season 7, again, I feel just kind of rushed some stories that could have had more time, man. They could have had more time. And the season was still good regardless. But if I had to say definitively, I would say that the show might have been able to use some of that extra footage. So anyway, that's it from me. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I'll see you guys for more vlogs and content in the future. Thanks for watching.